Opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Scarefest Radio, the radio you can see.
And good evening and welcome everyone to Scarefest Television, original broadcast day, April 22nd, 2022. And tonight our special guest is Mr. John Kassir, who is just being foolish and playing with buttons and all this kind of stuff. So it's gonna be one of those kind of shows. We started a few minutes late, not a big deal, because you people are used to me dicking around for the first 15 minutes. Now, Chad Harlan, of course, is my lovely and talented co-host for the evening. And
good evening.
Just go ahead and bring everybody. Go ahead and let's do an everybody, because this is going to be this kind of show. I can just tell. What are you pointing at? My producer is waving at me, John. Well, I can shut that off here. If that's a problem, let's see. Turn that off. And of course, everybody, you'd know John Kassir because he did the famous voiceover saying Scarefest Radio, the radio you can see. And that's...
That's right, kiddies. On the small screen.
Actually, for the record, now that we've got a YouTube channel, you can watch it on your TV if you're remotely connected. Anyway, just saying. How did anybody? Okay, I don't know.
Put the crack pipe down.
John, now do you? Where do you actually live at? Where are you from? Now,
well, I can't tell everybody because they're going to show up at my house.
I don't want your goddamn home address. I just want to. The reason I'm asking, Kentucky finally broke the weather barrier, and we actually had the first, I would say, beginning to end beautiful day that we've had in the year 2022.
Nice. Well, I live in Southern California for all the obvious reasons. I'm originally from Baltimore. I grew up in Baltimore. My family's still back there, so I was just back there visiting my parents. My dad is going to turn 98 at the end of the month, at the end of June.
They're so cute at that
And my
age.
mom, oh my God, my he's a funny little guy. You'd think he's a character that I play, you know. Everybody's like, oh my God. And my mom is 92. Sadly, she's with Alzheimer's, but she's hanging in there. And we're just blessed to still have them around. You know, and that weather is, there's no, ecological things going on. But, you know, they get winter in the summer and summer in the winter now. But I love Southern California, and the weather's fantastic. And contrary to what people say, we do have seasons. We just don't have the snowy winter season.
Baseball, football, basketball.
Fire season, earthquake season.
Yeah. We pretty much go from cold and muddy as shit to mosquitoes. That's our two seasons. Cold and mosquitoes.
I like Kentucky.
We are excited to have you back.
Thank you. I can't wait.
What's it been?
I can't wait.
Me and my wife were talking. I'm trying to remember if it was 3 years or 4 years. I don't remember. Well, actually, yeah.
Oh, boy.
And then you got to add COVID in there, so that screws everything.
You know, I was just going to say, with the last 2 years flying by and stuff, everything seems like it was, you know, not as long ago as it was, just because these 2 years have sped by. And then you're like, well, you have to add 2 years. Let's see, it was 2 years and then 2 years for the pandemic. So it's been 4 years. You know, if I had to guess, that's what I would say. But No, you know what? I was down in Lexington with you guys. I think it maybe was 3 years ago. Hey, I don't look back, so
That's the way to do it. I was just trying to remember because I was trying to remember if it was Scarefest 10 or Scarefest 11, and not that it really matters, but it's true.
not unless it's on an iPhone, and then it's iPhone 14 will make iPhone 11 is going to disappear, so it doesn't really matter.
So you mentioned the last 2 years, John. What have you been doing? Have you stayed busy or kind of been locked in the house?
I've stayed very busy. Obviously I wasn't able to do much in the way of on-camera work. I was offered a few things. Hey, you want to go to Atlanta? In the middle of a pandemic. I was like, no, I'm not even getting on an airplane. I have an autoimmune disorder that's a severe one that I don't talk about much, but I'll just leave it at that. And so I had to be very careful, and it paid off because I've been careful and I've been able to avoid it. I'm sorry also for being busy and also not being able to travel because of that, to miss a lot of the live events that people have invited me to. But I have signed up for a bunch of them this year, barring, us having the next variant that takes off and becomes
that they're already talking about. Yeah, that's always
Yeah, but you know what? You're double boosted and I'm double boosted. As long as people follow good protocols and they're respectful, which most people are, I'm not worried about it as much. But I have a recording studio here in my house, so small recording studio. So I was able to do a lot of my voiceover work, even though I didn't get to work much on camera. I was able to do some really nice projects during this time. I worked on the Ghostbusters movie, and I worked on Flora and Ulysses, which was Disney's big kids movie during the pandemic. I played Ulysses the squirrel, which is pretty funny because it drove my dogs crazy because out of the closet were all these squirrel noises. And amongst a bunch of other things that I was able to do here. So, I feel really grateful, work really hard at what I do, but also have,
now, from the chat room there, actually, Anita remembered, my producer / wife, Anita remembered, last time you were at Scarefest, you had your arm all bandaged up. Are you back to health now on that?
Did I?
Yes, you were in a sling.
Maybe it was when I had I had shoulder surgery. So that was 2 years. That was the August before the pandemic. So, or the September. It would have been in the fall, right?
Yeah.
So it was just before the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm.
So was that 12 or 11?
And I still can't do the math because of fucking COVID.
This is what they call a callback joke. But yes. Yes, no, I had shoulder surgery, torn rotator cuff, and some bicep muscles. Which, once you get to a certain age, everybody's got tears. But how bad it is depends on whether you can lift your arm in the morning and sleep on it. I couldn't anymore, so I have beat the shit out of my body. People who know my on-camera career and my stage career know that I pretty much signed up for the Jim Carrey school of busting up my body because most of the stuff that I did was very physical. I'd be the guy that falls down the steps 8 shows a week for laughs. Hey, I'm on a Broadway show, Mom. And street performing in my younger days, and I played a lot of contact sports. I was a lacrosse player. I played football until I realized 135 pounds was not big enough to play football.
And you did the Three Stooges. You can't get more physical than that.
Movie. Oh yeah, it was funny because I was watching. Somebody had sent me part of that reel the other day. Michael Chiklis actually had posted it, and we keep in touch. And he had, who played Curly, and there was this scene where I am punched and roll up onto the ropes upside down. And so in a boxing ring, and the way we shot it was, and the director was like, how did they shoot that? And we were sitting there looking at the original. I'm like, he started it on the ropes and rolled down backwards, and then they played it backwards, and that's how he rolled on it. So that's how we did it. And it was like, so I had to roll myself up onto the ropes, hanging over the ropes by my feet upside down, and then come down and do like a backward roll, like up into the punch, and they shot it and ran it, and it looks great. It was awesome, but I was like, I don't know if I could do that.
The original practical effects.
Oh my God, they're the best. It's so funny to see, I have to say this because this really has to do with horror too. The best horror movies that still hold up are the ones that used practical effects, and that's why practical effects are still so popular. With Savini and some of these other guys that still do them, that are so great at them, and why people want to go to their schools and learn how to do it. And Kevin Yeager, of course, who made The Crypt Keeper and all this stuff, because they hold up because they were done in this way that was real, and you look at something where somebody did, some kind of CGI that now is so far further along than what it was, or an animation that's so further along than what it was, it doesn't hold up anymore. We were watching Ernest Dickerson and myself and Todd Masters, Charlie Fletcher, and some of the other people from Demon Night often get together for an audience and do a live showing of Demon Night, and or online like this, and everybody watches it and the whole deal because it's such a great movie, and the effects in that hold up. They did a lot of practical effects, but they also did some animation in it, and Ernest was smart enough to do the kind of stuff that doesn't look dated. It doesn't, but you still go like watch Night of the Living Dead, and they're holding, I don't know, they may have gone to a butcher shop and got real entrails, but they're holding sausages or something full of, Cairo syrup in black and white. You can't tell, it looks like blood. And, and they got the little girl with the hoe, with the hoe, and they put the right sound effect in it. And it's so real. It's so visceral. And it's just, another reason why I love horror. That and theremins. Give me any horror movie with a theremin. All the old Universal horror monster movies used to always use theremins.
I guess they did. I hadn't.
Yes.
I mean, I knew what a theremin was, and Star Trek.
Come on, admit it. Head. He's going. What the fuck is he talking about?
No. Actually, and I even had a reminder tonight.
Is he talking about
the episode
cold? Isn't that a cold medication?
No, the episode tonight of Sheldon.
Big Bang.
Big Bang Theory actually was the one where he plays theremin. So I was even prepared.
Oh my God!
It's like great. It's like the angels in heaven said, Wesley, pay attention. Anyway, we're going to take a quick commercial break, everybody. We'll be back with more from John Kassir. And at the bottom of the hour-ish, we have celebrity announcements. Be right back.
Everyone is talking about CBD oil, and it seems like almost everyone is using it. The research is ongoing, but the apparent health benefits are overwhelming. If you're going to use CBD products, though, what brand should you buy? First, find out where the hemp was grown. Imports are flooding the market. How potent is it? Look for a brand that plainly states its concentration on the label. And look for full-spectrum CBD. This means the oil contains CBD and all the other cannabinoids, terpenes, and nutrients that are found in the entire cannabis plant. Look for Blue Leaf CBD oil. Blue Leaf Naturals is a Kentucky proud company. They use only Kentucky-grown hemp, supporting Kentucky farmers and businesses. Visit their website at blueleafcbd.com now and use the code SMILE at checkout for free shipping.
Come visit the Universal Energy Expo May 7th and 8th at the Northern Kentucky Convention Center. Meet special guests, TikTok celebrity Madam Adam, published author Patty Wigington, psychic mediums the Connor sisters, and paranormal investigator Spirit Mechanics. over 100 readers, healers, and vendors. Admission also includes door prizes and all workshops. The Universal Energy Expo. Come curious, leave enlightened.
And welcome back to Scarefest TV. As you can see on screen, our guest tonight is the Crypt Keeper himself, John Kassir. God, I hope I stop talking in time for that to get caught on audio so I can steal it like I did the other thing he did. Anyway, let's see. We talked during the commercial, then I forget all of it. I know what I was going.
You must be smoking during the commercials because
I want them to legalize that shit so bad. Anyway, no, I was going to ask you now. We've kind of danced around the actual topic du jour, which is your career. But I did want to ask, without going down the whole timeline and everything, where did the voice that I'm going to say you're best known for, at least to our audience, although, Deadpool in the games is a pretty good score too, but that voice, was the voice before the character, or how did that all come together?
They actually had the auditions down in Kevin Yeager's studio, and for those who don't know Kevin Yeager was the creature maker who made the Crypt Keeper puppet and designed his look. Obviously, if you go look in the comic books, he looked very different. He tried to make something that was kind of a, combination of the Crypt Keeper, the Vault Keeper, and the Old Witch. When I went down to his studio, he had versions of him with a nose, without a nose, and they didn't give him much budget to start when they first started working on it, so he was using spare parts in his studio. And for Kevin also made Chucky and had designed Freddy Krueger's look and all kinds of great stuff that he did. So he was using spare parts. He actually used Chucky eyes on the Crypt Keeper. And originally they were just going to be temporary, but they just looked so great. It made him look so glamorous on top of being creepy. And so he kept them. So I got to go down to Kevin Yeager's studio, which for me was a treat in the first place because I'm a huge horror fan myself, and to see all the cool stuff that he has like hanging on the walls and his, clay models he starts out with clay to design things, and getting to see those in his studio was just amazing. And there were a bunch of other actors, and some of them well known, some of them well known in the voiceover areas or stand-up comics, because they wanted somebody that had all those things. And I had already been doing a couple of series for HBO. I had done First and 10, which was their first series, which I was on for 6 years, and worked on Dream On and some other stuff for them. I was in the process of trying to do a stand-up special with Whoopi Goldberg producing. We never really got that off the ground, but wound up being too busy. But they called up my agents and said, listen, we need somebody like John, somebody who can do voices, who can be funny and also be a good actor, to come in and do this. And so I walked in, I could see these guys with the scripts looking at all the puns, going, be careful what you ask for. You may get it. Oh, this is terrible. They're thinking to themselves this stuff. I'm going, no, you don't get it, you idiots. This is like Shakespeare to this guy, Alfred Hitchcock used to open his shows with all those great puns and sinister, alliteration that he would bring across when he would introduce his show. And I'm like going, this is perfect. And then when I saw the puppet and I saw the holes in his throat and the rotting teeth and and I used to do, in my stand-up, I used to do the Wizard of Oz in 2.5 minutes, So I was thinking, I'll give him like a Wicked Witch of the West kind of laugh. And I started doing it for Kevin. And originally, the voice had to be down here because the lips didn't move very well. And so we had to make him a little more creepier and more sinister. And I started doing it, but of course I was, Kevin started laughing, started going, he must have been listening to people all day because he was sitting there like this, and I started doing it, he was like, doing this to me. And I started laughing, which of course fed into the Crypt Keeper being funny and laughing at his own jokes. And, so it was really created right there in the room with Kevin, for the first time. And he loved it. And, be careful what you ask for. You may get it. And the next day he had me doing it for Joel Silver and Richard Donner, two of the biggest guys ever in the business, in a trailer on the set where they were shooting the episodes. And they were like, okay, awesome. We'll see you on the set. And, as an actor, you never believe anything until somebody actually starts paying you and, books you to actually show up somewhere.
I was so lucky they did, because
yeah.
just what you said, just bringing in that's the way Hitchcock opened, and it took a real horror fan and the comic timing and the humor to be able to tie that all together. Otherwise the show just wouldn't have worked. It only worked because of what you brought to it.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And honestly, it went from, they didn't have a lot of money, so they're like, oh, let's scale. I was like, and then after the show was like in its third season, I'm like, hey, how about you pay me more than scale? It's just like, I'm ripping open my cords for you and doing all this advertising for it and all this stuff. And I'm, and it's and they're like, oh, we're going to replace you. And they couldn't replace me at that point. They had infused my, my stand up into it, my voice, my personality, my timing and everything. And, and I never got rich off the show. I wouldn't expect to. It was a project that everybody put into for whatever they could afford to do it for. And in fact, after the first 4 episodes, the 3 episodes that were directed by the producers, Walter Hill, who was a director, obviously for 48 Hours and all Dreamscape and all the wonderful. The Warriors come out to play. And Bob Zemeckis and Richard Donner directed the first 3 episodes. And, the show they thought was probably going to get canceled after that because it was expensive. And then Gil Adler came in. And Gil was amazing. He had been doing Freddy's Nightmares. And so they were like, well, we have to do, this many pages in a day. We have to do this many pages. Can you do that? And then Gil was like, what are we doing with the second half of the day? He had been already doing a great job and talking about practical effects and everybody having to be, creative. They'd be hanging stuff instead of real Spanish moss. They'd be hanging like cutouts of Spanish moss and it looked like real Spanish moss, stuff that you would have done way back in the day, like on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, was being used to bring across this show. And so people were getting to be creative. And of course, some people had a great experience with it. Some people didn't, but that's true with every show. But
it just shows how iconic it is, because you bring up like Freddy's Nightmares and Chucky just a minute ago, and I would have swore that this predated those and that those kind of built off of it, because when I think, kind of that era, this is the first show I think of, and it feels like everything else kind of came after it. So it's such an iconic part.
It did in many ways, even though the show wasn't on the air yet. The comic book was from the 50s and the 60s, and the art direction on those comic books is what everybody used as a gold standard for horror movies. I mean, you go through those comic books and you go, oh my God, that looks like a scene right out of a Roger Corman movie, or this looks like a scene right out of this. The Tingler could have been a Tales from the Crypt episode. These all this stuff. And, then of course in the 70s they did the movie that was kind of like a Twilight Zone movie where they did the 3 episodes, and Sir Ralph Richardson played the Crypt Keeper, 1972 I think. And so it was a natural thing. I mean, for me, I just thought it was going to be some kind of little cult thing for people like myself, and of course it wound up being we didn't know kids were watching it, and so now we know that it was one of the biggest things in the '90s pop culture.
Absolutely. And then
you
it
know,
turned into a cartoon film.
That's right, and a game show, and 3 motion pictures, and some record albums, and a Christmas album, and Bud Light commercials, and Not Scary Farms, and it was amazing. And the Crypt Keeper was obviously a great pitch man, and he was great. He was ingenious too. I mean, you remember that franchise more than others because of the Crypt Keeper. He was the guy that lets you know that it's okay to understand that this is supposed to be fun, which is why kids watched it. You have all these other anthology series, and they may have had a cool opening or something. The Twilight Zone certainly did, and Rod Serling, certainly brought character and an identity to the Twilight Zone that wasn't in any other show. Mm-hmm. That opening. The Twilight Zone, and so it was, Tales from the Crypt was right out of the comic book, and they did their best to try to bring. In fact, they even used some of the frames from the comic book as art, as storyboards for what they were going to shoot each day, and some of them and that kind of thing. So certainly you can see the set behind me, has that kind of look to it. And they had great artists working on it, and great art direction, and great directors. You could get, because it was a playground for people to come in, and you got like a serious director to come in and be able to, shoot something fun and funny, and serious actors who wanted to do comedy, or comedic actors who wanted to do something serious or direct. We had episodes that were directed by Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael J. Fox, and Michael Keaton directed an episode, and Tom Hanks directed an episode, and all these different people coming in and directing. Frankenheimer directed, I think, 2 episodes of Tales from the Crypt, and I think Toby Hooper and some other people. That wasn't me. That honk. Was that
No, that was
a commercial.
Yeah,
no, but it is about time.
Yes,
Uncle Floyd.
That's how we signal our commercial breaks. Is Chad's phone makes a fart noise.
Well, Ted just snuck one up on one cheek, which means that it's time for a commercial.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Spirit Mechanics is here to help. Their background includes many different specialties across the metaphysical spectrum, including alchemy, shamanism, Celtic witchcraft, angelic magic, astral travel, and more.
With over 30 years combined experience in the group, you can be confident in their ability to help. If there is a question you have that you cannot answer, they will do their best to assist you.
Metaphysics can be intimidating, confusing, and unfortunately, abused. Spirit Mechanics takes pride in being selfless in the pursuit of helping others, being humble and honest with their clients about their questions, and lastly, maintaining a professional and personable atmosphere. They want you to feel as you are coming to a close friend, and they will do everything in their power to make you comfortable and safe.
And our first celebrity announcement for Scarefest 2022 of the evening, Mr. Miguel Nunez. Hey, Return of the Living Dead. Somebody asked the other day, are we doing any more Return? Yes, we still have more Return of the Living Dead. Of course, he was Voodoo Maestro in Scooby-Doo, FYI. But yes, Miguel is coming. Yeah, I think, Eric, that was one he was begging us for in the chat room. Next up, coming back 2 times in a row. We like to never got the guy. Now we can't get rid of him. Bill Moseley. He is coming back to Scarefest this year, and he never does Scarefest 2 times in a row. But we had such a good con last year. Ta-da! Okay, Devil's Rejects, House of 1,000 Corpses, Night of the Living Dead, Texas Chainsaw 3D, and on and on and on. A horror icon, if there ever was one. And to round out tonight's announcements, one here that I didn't even advertise we were doing, the best-selling author of Razor's Edge, the Freddy Krueger origin novel, and the co-author of Behind the Screams, The Dream Masters Revealed, a nonfiction book with hundreds of never-before-seen photos. Mr. Blake Best is coming to Scarefest 2022. Don't forget, we are still taking staff applications. If you would like to be a volunteer for the Scarefest, just go to thescarefest.com, sign up. We have our first in-person staff meeting day this Sunday, which pisses me off because it's going to be a beautiful day and I should be doing 1,000 other things, but I will be there, by God, so can you. And the Scarefest Horror Film Festival is taking submissions. Meredith, one of our judges, has already watched like all of them and is waiting for more. Me, I've watched half a dozen, maybe a dozen. Scarefest Horror Film Festival. Just go to thescarefest.com. Click on the film festival link if you are interested in submitting your independent feature or short film to the Horror Film Festival. And I don't have the dates pulled up, but I'll see if I can get them real quick. Central Kentucky Mystical Market is coming up May 7th. 7th and 8th? Yeah. No, it's not. 14th and 15th. Sorry about that. Anyway, it's on the website, people. CentralKYMysticalMarket.com. CentralKYMysticalMarket.com, or look them up on Facebook. Central Kentucky Mystical Market. Now, back to our guest. Now, John, I wanted to ask you, I think we touched on this last time you were on the show, but it's one of those cute little trivia things that just drives me nuts. Comedy Champion, 1983 on Star Search.
1985.
It says 83 on IMDb. Not my goddamn fault.
Wrong. It's wrong.
Beat Sinbad.
Valentine's Day 1985, I won.
Well, why the hell would somebody... What? See, you
well,
can't
you know,
trust
1983.
anything.
1983 is when the show started. It came
that
when
could
it
be
came
what
on
it
the
is.
air, and I came in as the towards the end of the first season. They had already had their 4 contestants coming in to the finals, so they were continuing. They had to shoot more episodes, so they were continuing. So they brought in new comics that would start off. Whoever was that person winning would be the reigning champion coming into the second season, which wound up being me. But what was your question? Sorry,
I don't even remember now. Okay, you edged out Sinbad, and now Rosie O'Donnell. That just doesn't seem like much of a challenge to me. But now Sinbad,
she was good. She was good. The audience loved her. She was, it was funny because it's a bit of a twisted story because I really hadn't done hardly any stand-up at that point. I was in an off-Broadway musical about stand-ups that was a big hit off-Broadway. Think Dreamgirls, but with stand-ups. It was called Three Guys Naked from the Waist Down. You can believe that, because that's what a comic feels like when they're in front of an audience and bombing, is you feel naked from the waist down. And it's starring Scott Bakula and myself and Jerry Colker, who wrote the piece, who I just actually spoke to today. We hadn't spoken in a while, and he's still doing great and a great writer and actor. And it was a big hit off Broadway, and they saw me in the show, and they said, "Hey, we want you to be on Star Search." I'm like, "Star Search? I've heard of that. It's a pretty new show." They go, "Yeah, we want you to come on and perform." And I'm going, "Well, I'm in this musical, so I'm guessing you want me to sing?" I go, "I can sing, good enough to be in a show on off Broadway. I've worked, in the biggest shows, but I can't sing like the likes of Sam Harris, who at that time was kicking ass on the show." I was like, "I can't sing like that guy." They're like, No. We don't want you to come on as a singer. We want you to come on as a stand-up comic." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not really a stand-up comic. It's a part I'm playing in the show." They go, "Well, you can win $100,000. I'm like, "Fuck,
I'm a stand-up
just
comic.
ain't my act." So, I got my ass in the club and started taking every bit that I ever did, and, through street performing and sketch comedy, and started, honing it into stand-up type routines. And I think that's why I won, because I was writing my bits specifically for their 2.5-minute format. You know, I had, from the time I was in high school, my buddy Fred and I used to do a bit where I'd do all the characters from The Wizard of Oz and that kind of stuff. I'd be like a 2.5 minute version of The Wizard of Oz. All right, Dorothy, I'll go in there for Dorothy. Wicked Witch or no Wicked Witch. You know, and doing all the, as mayor of the Munchkin City in the county of the land of Oz. And so I would do all these different bits, and I kept winning and winning. And then I wound up in the semifinals against Rosie. And Rosie had won a bunch of episodes, too, to get into the semifinals. And, you know, it was funny because when I started back, you know, after I had won in the earlier season, before I was back on the show, I was like, I better get my ass back in the into comedy clubs and start working up these routines because I'm going to be back on the show. And I wound up playing in a little club in you know, Sheepshead Bay in New York and Rosie O'Donnell was the MC. And I was like, and she was like, knew everything about me, and she knew what shows I had been in off Broadway, and she was just really kind of funny and fun and the whole thing. And I was like, oh, she's great. And she was, you know, so, and really likable. And you know, I wound up, she had me on the show, on her show. She was the MC and I was the headliner on that show. And so then when she wound up on you know, on Star Search, obviously, you know, she had a lot of material and she was likable and polished. And, you know, obviously, you know, her career has been great ever since. Somebody's making fun of me now. Did you guys get me on the show just to make fun of me?
For some reason, my producer decided to listen to the show. It kind of threw me there.
Technology is supposed
fun.
to be our friend. You know.
I guess the main question I had about it was, I'm trying to picture two professional stand-up comedians. And of course, I don't know how professional they were at the time. Of course, Rosie, you said she was the MC.
Both of them. Everybody that was on that show had already been playing the clubs. At first, I was like, I don't want to do like an amateur hour show, and they were like, no, everybody we get are professionals. You know, they all have a history. All the singers have worked in, you know, clubs or have maybe even cut their first album or whatever. You know, the stand-ups are on, you know, on the circuit. You know, I mean, they had everybody. You know, they had, you know, Ray Romano and Dennis Blair, and I mean, they had like everybody was on that show. You know, it wasn't a good format for everybody. I mean, 2.5 minutes isn't an easy time to be able to bring across some stand-up,
right?
You know, which is why I chose to do these like Ernie Kovacs type, you know, encapsulated bits, as opposed to trying to get them to know me in 2.5 minutes and then laugh at a few jokes. And you know, I was able to bring across, you know, my humor, and of course, because I did all these characters and voices in my act, you know, it was a natural transition to doing voiceover work as well. So.
All right.
I've left you speechless. I could tell. I've left you speechless.
My producer left me, and so I'm going.
You don't need a producer.
You
don't
know.
need a producer.
Well, I mean, I know, but I don't like clicking on the buttons myself. Anyway, let's see. We're going to go now to our final. Well, actually, we're 5 minutes early, aren't we? I don't have to go to that yet, because we started 5 minutes late tonight. Anyway, what was the movie, Chad, you were asking him about?
I was going to say, John, I want to ask you, how do you end up doing a quote-unquote horror movie with Candace Cameron?
Originally called Frankenstein Sings, the marketed title was Monster Mash. And that was originally a musical that Bobby Pickett, you know, who of Monster Mash fame, he did the mash. He did the Monster Mash. And Bobby was awesome. They had optioned this script to make a movie out of it. The original play was called The Bridge Is Out, You'll Have to Spend the Night. And the storyline was a couple of young kids dressed up as Romeo and Juliet are on their way to a costume party, and their car breaks down and a rainstorm comes and washes out the bridge, and they're stuck near this big old mansion. And they go into the mansion, and of course, Dracula lives there, and the Wolf Boy and his mom, and Igor and Dr. Frankenstein and the Frankenstein monster and all these other characters. We had the most amazing cast. And so I had auditioned for it to play Igor. And so I came in, I had the hump and the whole thing. Hi, I want the girl, master. And Candace Cameron was, cast as the young girl. And oh my God, you got to check it out. It's such a great cast. Mink Stoll is in it. She plays Wolfie's mom, and and oh my gosh, from the original Superman movie, Sarah Douglas. Is that correct? Is that her name? She played one of the people from who had from his planet.
I'm still looking for it, so I am going to do whatever I can to find that movie to watch.
We had an amazing cast. It was so much fun. We had, they had the top choreographers in it. Carrie Ann Inaba, who everybody knows from Dancing with the Stars, was one of the dancers in it. That's how good of a dance group dancers that they had in this show. And Adam Shankman, who now is a big director, was a dancer and choreographer. Came on and he was our choreographer, and then he wound up playing the Wolf Boy because our Wolf Boy got sick and fell out, and so he came in and played the Wolf Boy. But it was shot on a shoestring budget. The guys who wrote it were two of the writers of Toy Story.
Wow.
And Alex Sokolow and Ethan Cohen, not of the Coen brothers, different Ethan Cohen. And they were really wonderful, and they wrote a really fun script, and they had a really good cinematographer, and they were directing it, and they got a really good cast. And we were having a blast shooting it in some big old mansion in Hollywood. And, I had worked on First and 10 with OJ, and we were shooting it when the Bronco chase was going on one day. And everybody was like, "Oh my God, your friend OJ is on a chase." I'm like, "Oh, we got to watch this." And so we didn't have a TV, but the camera had like a little TV on it that he can watch, rather than looking through the lens, he can watch and we watched the OJ chase on a screen like this big, like the size of an iPhone, that day. I'll never forget that. But we had a blast making it. It was a really great cast. The music's great. And, it still has an audience. And it's in the same vein as the other movie that I did that has that same kind of feel to it, Reefer Madness, the movie musical, which, of course, was myself along with Kristen Bell and Nev Campbell and Steven Weber and Anna Gasteyer and Christian Campbell and, and Bob Torty, just an amazing cast.
The more we talk, the more I think we've been playing the wrong game all these years. Forget 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's 2 degrees of John Gazier. Connect anybody to you in 2 steps or less.
I've been doing it for 42 years. I started young, and I've supported myself as an actor for 42 years. And I don't know that a lot of people can say that. And, I had my good years and lean years, but most of the years have been good. And I worked hard for it. I've had some luck along the way too, but it only happens with hard work. And, God-given talent that, you learn how to make a dollar off of. People are like, well, what would you have done if you didn't become an actor? I was like, I have no fucking idea. I don't think I had any. This was the talents that I had. I don't know how I would have made, people are like, how do you make money as an actor? That was what my parents would ask me. They're like, what? You're going to go to college, study theater? How do you make money doing that? And I, of course, found out you can't really make very much money as a theater actor. You had to, wound up on TV and film and that kind of thing to make a real living. But, and I probably could have could have tweaked it more and, worked the Star Search win and that kind of stuff to become more of a, famous kind of guy. I was around when all the comics were coming of age, and the Jerry Seinfelds and the Bill Maher's and the Gilbert Gottfried, God bless him. I was talking about him today. What a great talent, and Bobcat Goldthwait and of course all these different people, but it really wasn't. That really wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to work in every aspect of the business that I could. I wanted to just do what I liked doing. I didn't want to like sing and dance as that one guy, and have that one personality. I enjoy the fact that a lot of my characters are more famous than I am. I mean, that to me says that I've done my job, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for people who follow my career and continue to watch what I do. I'm grateful to the people who hired me to play unusual roles throughout most of my career, and and I hope I get a chance to thank people in the future.
It's always amazing when I look through your credits that such iconic voiceover work, and again, every show you can ever think of, you have been on or involved with. But we're coming up on our last break. Let's go ahead and toss to that, and we'll be right back.
Horror. Movie. Fans. 4. Life. On Facebook. Find us. 4 watch parties. 4 news. 4 memes. 4 friends. 4 life. Horror movie fans for life. Join us.
Hey, this is Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly, and this week's review is a movie called The Nighthouse. Now, this is kind of an HBO exclusive. I was looking it up. Turns out it came out in 2020. What are we, 2022? Anyway, and I was a little intrigued and looked at the poster, and good God, I'm always looking for something to watch because I have to do all these reviews. But it's directed by David Bruckner. I wasn't familiar with him. I looked him up, and actually there's a couple of movies he did that I liked. One of them is The Ritual. If you ever get the chance to watch The Ritual, it's pretty good. And then The Signal a few years ago, which was a lot of fun as well. It stars Rebecca Hall, and actually she's the best part of the movie. It's basically about a woman who's a widow and begins to, is she being visited by a ghost? Is she being visited by the ghost of her husband? And unfortunately, it's another one of those, the less I tell you, the better off you're going to be. It's really well acted. I love the first of it. It just starts to unravel what happened to her husband. We start to figure out it. Well, I'll give you this part. It's a suicide. And we find out about 20 minutes or 10 minutes into the movie that it was a suicide. And she's a teacher, and he's built this house on the lake for them both that she doesn't particularly want to give up, but she knows she's eventually going to have to give up. And she doesn't understand why he committed suicide. She was the one who suffered from depression, had all these problems. And then the movie keeps going. Honestly, there's not like boo scares, but there's a lot of tension in it. And I liked it. I found myself here on a Saturday night by myself doing this a little bit as it go about ready to hit the pause button. It's hard to call it scary as much as it's more of a thriller tension kind of thing. And it just kept building. And I was doing this. I really enjoyed it. And the acting's so good in it. And then I'm going to get crapped on because there's an explanation at the end of what everything's going on. And all right, we're dealing with a ghost story. There are ghosts. The explanation is so far-fetched and out of left field. And I think there's so much more they could have done with it, especially since the movie's like an hour and 45 minutes. That being said, don't let that get past the fact that Rebecca Hall, who plays Beth in this movie, and is just an absolute, just wonderful. She just nails it out of the park. And it's kind of a mystery in the sense that we just keep tracking. What did he know? She finds out more and more from cell phones, from computers, from talking to people. And it just goes in, she gets caught up in a quagmire of who was her husband? Why was he doing this, that, and the other thing? Why didn't she know anything about it? Was she oblivious? And it started making me think of Stephen King, and Stephen King talking about Gacy, the serial killer's wife. She said she didn't know anything about it when it happened. And a lot of people called BS on that. And he defended her by saying, I don't know, is it possible? He even wrote a short novella called The Good Wife, which is also a good movie if you get a chance to watch it, or The Good something like that. Do you know who you're living with? I don't know. I enjoyed the movie more than I thought I would. It was a lot of fun. Definitely check out The Nighthouse. It's on HBO Max. It's directed by David Bruckner. Like I said, he did a movie. If you ever saw The Signal, Signal's really good. Just check it out. And The Ritual a couple of years ago that was on Netflix. In fact, I think I reviewed it on here before. So check out The Nighthouse. It's a creepy little movie. It's not a blood and guts. I haven't done one of those in a while. Maybe next week. But check out The Nighthouse on HBO Max. I recommend it, especially for the performance of Rebecca Hall in it. Just a fantastic actress. This has been Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly.
And welcome back, everybody, to the final segment of Scarefest Television. And there he is, the Crypt Keeper himself, with John Kassir playing backup. I do need to do a little business here. I need to thank Horror Movie Fans for Life. That's on Facebook. It's one of our sponsors. They sponsored my new monitor, which I still ain't got all the bugs worked out of because you can see I'm still in the background there. But the point is, we don't lose a guest like we did last week. Last week, my monitor kept shutting off, John, and it would take your video with it. Your audio would be there. But so we fixed that, but now I got to do a little tweaking to the interface.
I told you electronics and crack don't mix. How many times I got to tell you that? Put the crack pipe down.
Yeah, I'm awful fat for a crackhead. Anyway, what does one do with themselves when they're not doing voiceover work and acting? What's your passions? What do you do in your free time, John?
Oh, wow. Well, I got my two border collies, Emmett and Fig, and my wife Vanessa and I, really love to run them. We got a big property where we can run them around. And I used to have horses. I grew up around horses, and I used to have horses, and they took a lot of my time and that kind of thing. I was really into that. And then years went by where I was just too busy to ride them, and they had gotten old, and I found a farm where they could retire, and then I got myself a Harley, and I drove that for a number of years, and I really used to love motorcycle riding. And I play golf. I like being physically active. I would love to used to get involved in a lot of theater. I met my wife in the theater. We did a lot of live performing. I did everything from musicals like Reefer Madness and Three Guys Naked to Shakespeare. And I love being an artist, and I like working as an artist and living like an artist. And we love traveling. I've been all over the world. I used to do USO tours back in the day when I was with a comedy group, and we got to, go perform for U.S. military all over the world. And it gave me a taste for how small the world can be. And so we like traveling. Of course, we haven't gotten to do much of it during the pandemic, so we're looking forward to doing that again. And looking forward to seeing some of the people in some of these conventions this year. Hopefully, nothing interrupts those. I'm extra safe because I do have an autoimmune disorder, but still am looking forward to seeing people face to face, even if it's like this. But, I have to get somebody to make me up some Tales from the Crypt face masks. That would be good, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe just like
just walk around that thing.
Just the teeth part, just the The bottom part. But thank you for asking. I like making the best out of my leisure time.
See, I can't even relate to that. I don't have leisure time. I'm one.
You do have horses.
I have one horse left, and I'm just waiting for him. He's outlived me technically. He's 35.
Well, 35.
Wow.
Yeah, 35 years old. And while he is still in wonderful, wonderful shape, if I was to ride him and he dropped dead under me, I would feel bad. So I just let him. He's out there doing his thing, and
he's a very spoiled baby.
Yeah, leave him alone. But somebody the other. I think it was
spoiled. I love that.
Yeah.
Kentucky. He's a spoiled. He's a spoiled baby.
Yeah. I think it was on Facebook the other day. Somebody was talking. Oh, I know what it was. Somebody mentioned about when you need more money, a side gig will present itself. And I'm like, that's all I do is side gigs. My entire life is side gigs. So I should apply myself like you, John.
Prostitution.
There was a day, but I think I might be past that period of my life.
I was going to say, Wes can't afford to hire clients to come see him.
You just take the teeth out. It's somebody's into
Well,
that. Whatever it is, somebody's into it.
As we say in Kentucky, $20 is $20. So, everybody, we're at the end of the hour. Thank you so much, John Kassir, for coming on. And, of course, everybody, he will be at Scarefest 2022 coming up October 21st through 23rd. So
I hope to be there and don't get spoiled.
I've got to corner you and get you just to record some shit for me because I'm too cheap to pay for it. But,
I'm too cheap to do it for free.
And that's a story.
We got bourbon.
Yeah, we're in Kentucky and we can liquor you up. Anyway, everybody, this has been Scarefest TV. See you next week.
Yeah.